What's up, Raider Nation? The Bat Fry, Kenny Fry here, letting you know what's coming up on the Silver and Black Lair Las Vegas Raiders edition. Coming up, I will be talking training camp news, of course, quarterback competition, which is the biggest news coming out of training camp, the biggest talking point coming out of training camp. But I'll also talk a little bit of Trey Tucker, Tyree Wilson, and offensive line issues with some guys on the pup list. I'll be talking that and much more coming up on the Silver and Black Lair in about 45 seconds. So please stay tuned. Good morning, Silver and Black Nation. Welcome to the Silver and Black Lair, Las Vegas Raiders edition. I'm your host, the Bat Fry, Kenny Fry, and Monday Fun Day is upon us. I am like the fat cat. I am like Garfield. I hate Mondays. I hate Mondays. I hate every day that is a work day, to be honest with you. I struggle with night shift now recently, and it goes for those of you that have never worked a night shift. Yeah, it's hard to explain. For those of you that have, which many people out there have, it goes in ebbs and flows. Night shift with sleep schedules and stuff. You'll have times where you feel great, you'll get a decent day's sleep, and all's good in the world. Then you'll hit a nice little stretch where it's a struggle. You can't sleep. What sleep you do get is not enough. At least that's what it feels like. Your ass drags. You're miserable. It is what it is. I'm currently coming out of that type of streak. I felt like the past week or so I've been getting some decent sleep. So hopefully from here on out, I will not be pissy Bat Fry. I will be happy Bat Fry. And just like the Raiders season, all things will be good, hopefully. So we're going to talk a little bit of training camp. What news I've been hearing from the experts out there, all the different podcasts and keyboard warriors on X or social media or wherever. Stuff that I see pop up, articles I see pop up through my Googler and then stuff like that. You tell me one thing, and another person tells you another thing, and another person tells you another thing. So you don't know who to believe. But that's what makes it training camp. That's what makes it fun. I don't see any of this stuff, live. I don't live in Las Vegas to go watch their practices. So I have no idea what the hell's going on. I just take their word for it and patiently wait for the Raiders' first preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings. So that's all we can do, and then we can make our own opinions, form our own opinions, and actually see who we think might actually be in line to start at what position. There's a couple positions that are up in the air in full-fledged competition, and with the main one being, of course, the quarterbacks. And so last week I talked about it a little bit. I said last week that nobody's really stepping up and taking grabbing the reins of this job. I've heard reports that Minshew's ahead. I heard reports that Aiden O'Connell's ahead. Who knows? Nobody knows for sure. Only a couple people know, and they're the coaches. That's Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsky, guys like that. They're the ones that actually know who's in the lead for this quarterback competition. Who's going to be our potential Week 1 starter when we take on the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. And Well, and that's when we're going to know. Basically, is that I think it's going to come up to the last preseason game, and then either right before the last preseason game or right after the last preseason game. I think we will know who our starter is. And from everything I've heard, which is very interesting, because it's not the way things have been going for most NFL teams the last few years with preseason games. The Raiders have stated that they will play the starters in these preseason games, which, what better way to evaluate talent than seeing them out there in actual competition on television, in front of a crowd, and how they react to certain situations. There's situations in games that pop up that you can't recreate in practice. You can only recreate so much that could potentially happen. But squirrely shit happens during games. Stuff that you'll never even think of, and it's good to get that stuff on film. Like even the joint practices, where they bring other teams in, and they have a joint practice, and they end up scrimmaging and stuff like that. They don't tell the true tale either. It's a little bit closer than what it may be without the preseason work, the preseason game work, or the joint practices. You get a little bit better idea than just regular practice, but it's still not the same as a bona fide, full-fledged game, in my opinion. Anyway, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I've never been a professional footballer, a professional football player, or I've never been a professional anything. Maybe a professional, handsome fella. I don't know. That's all subjective. I don't know. But anyway, now I'm thinking about it. Maybe not professional. Maybe amateur. Wannabe, right? Anyway, so coming into this, not knowing if it's going to be Minshew, if it's going to be O'Connell. It's going to be interesting to see what they do week with our first game. I think it comes up this Friday on the 9th. I think is our first preseason game against the Vikings. Who's going to take those first initial snaps with the first team offense? And I think that's going to tell a lot from how preseason or how training camp has been going. So if they go out there with Aiden O'Connell taking the snaps with the first team offense to start the first preseason game, that tells me as a fan that Aiden O'Connell has had the better training camp so far. And then you play off of it after that. Does that mean automatically Gardner Minshew will get the first team snaps second preseason game? It may very well be that. Each guy getting first team snaps in game situations. And then that third preseason game, do you sit your potential week one starter for that so there's no injury? Or do you do it again? Do you go, whoever is maybe in the lead after those first two preseason games into that final preseason game, whoever the coaches feel like is a step ahead in that competition, do they get to start in that final preseason game? And that's the end all be all. That's the telltale. That's the final grading point before you head into your week one work. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there with that. But I think that preseason game week one will tell a lot as to who has the slight advantage in the quarterback competition. Because right now I'm not getting crap from all the experts. You have one guy saying that Gardner Minshew is ahead of Aiden O'Connell. Then you have another guy saying that Aiden O'Connell is ahead of Gardner Minshew. Then you have another guy saying that nobody's ahead. That it's even yet. Nobody's playing well. None of the quarterbacks are playing well, and that's where it's at. So and I don't like that. I don't like that one at all. I don't like that synopsis, that opinion at all. I'd rather have one of those guys playing better than the other. Both of them playing like crap. That makes me a little bit nervous. So, and again, they are practicing against a top 10 type defense. I talked about that last week. Our boy Paul Spencer said last week that iron, creating iron kind of situation there. Trial by fire. Hopefully you get better. Facing a top 10 defense, but as it was brought up in the one podcast, the Locked On Raiders podcast, sometimes confidence is needed to get things rolling. And if you can't gain any confidence because you're getting your ass whooped by a top 10 defense day in and day out, it's going to be tough sledding. I got a couple comments here. Got our boy Adam the Answer Glenn. What's up, Adam? You can check Adam out with us on the Atomic Drop podcast, talking WWE wrestling. We were on last night for a couple hours talking SummerSlam recap. Go ahead and go back and check that out. I had a lot of fun before I had to hop off, but it is what it is. I had to go to work. Got to make that money, right? I got kids that need to be fed. There it is. So okay, what's up? Thanks for all right, there we go. Cheap viewers. I should have read that before. I threw you up there. A little bit of a what is that? A spam or whatever? Could be possibly. I assume it is. Cheap viewers on Cyber-Play. We do not pay for viewers. We will never pay for viewers. Every follow, every viewer that we do get, it may not be 1 million, it may not be 1,000, but they're all earned. Whether it's they come to watch me crash and burn, be comical, or actually have some sort of intelligent insight, I don't know. But they're all earned. We don't buy viewers, and we will never buy viewers. And if you buy viewers on your show, that's fine. That's what you do your thing. We will do our thing. I will do my thing. And I mean, I just don't see that. I don't see the point of it. I don't see what you get out of it. But I guess it's all about the money. You want to make money off of this. I guess you got to get the viewers. You got to get the clicks. Whether or not they're legit or not, whatever. That's on you. That's something you got to deal with. Not this guy. Not this brand. Out of the box sports. It just doesn't happen that way. What we got is what we earned, and that's what we worked for. And it all starts at the top. And speaking of the top, there's our boy Paul Spencer. What's up, Paul? He says, "What's up, buddy? I prefer Minshew. I can't read into who starts first in preseason, but I feel Aiden will get the nod to start preseason. He earned it from last year. Both will get first-team reps in preseason." Yeah, and that's – so I think that whole part, Paul, where Aiden earned it from last year, I think that only carries you so far. I don't think it carries you into the preseason game. I think that carries you into the leaderboard of being like on the top of the depth chart into training camp in a true quarterback competition. He's the incumbent. He's the guy that was here last season. He was the rookie last season. He finished last season strong. Going into preseason, he will be our number one heading into the competition because you have to have a number one and number two for depth chart reasons. You have to have it, a 3 and a 4, whatever. You have to have it for depth chart reasons. So, by default, he did put in some decent work last season at the end of the season, last 9 games. Most of those, I would say 7 of those 9 games, he played very, very well. And, he did his job. He protected the ball, and he did make some plays. So that got him the step ahead heading into training camp. But heading into that first preseason game, I think it's going to go off of who is performing the better out of the two through training camp. And like I said, I've heard both ways, and I don't know what to go for. So I'm just going to wait until we see the preseason game on, I believe, Friday. I believe September 9th is August 9th is the first preseason game at the Vikings. I don't know if I think it's at the Vikings. And so we'll see who gets those first-team reps. And then I do believe, like Paul says, both will get first-team reps in preseason. I do believe that second preseason game, I think it's against the Cowboys. Cowboys or 49ers. Those were our 3 games. It goes Vikings, then it's either Cowboys, 49ers, or 49ers, Cowboys. But then that second preseason game, whoever didn't get those first-team reps in that first preseason game, I do believe will get the first-team reps in the second preseason game. And I do think it'll be pretty close to equal playing time where, whether it's a quarter or a half or whatever, I think it'll be more, I think it should be more than a series or 2. I think it should be at the very least a full quarter or a full half and go from there. Because you're not going to learn enough from a series or 2 as to who is the better of the two, who's looking like your starting quarterback for week 1. Not in a series or 2 out of a true blue, quarterback competition. It has to be legit playing time. And the only problem with that is that in your number 3 quarterback, there's a possibility he doesn't get a whole lot of action in preseason. But if we're heading to the number 3 quarterback during the regular season, we are in a lot of trouble. So that doesn't really matter. So I don't know what you do with your number 2 quarterback. In that, especially the first preseason game. If you go ahead out in your first preseason game, and let's say you give the first quarter to whoever's number 1 on your depth chart heading into that first preseason game, well, then the number 2 should get the whole second quarter. But if you go the whole first half with that number 1 quarterback, which I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be first quarter. You cannot go a full second half with your second quarterback, I don't think, because you still have to get the other guys some work. That's my thought on it. The third string, fourth string guys, they do need to see a little bit of work. So I do think it'll be first quarter for whoever's number 1, second quarter for whoever's number 2, and then your second half will be your 3 and your 4, or just your 3 maybe. I don't know. But whatever they do the first game, they'll do the opposite. Second game, they'll switch it up. They'll flip-flop the guys, I believe, anyway. Paul says he also prefers Minshew. I prefer whoever's going to throw the goddamn ball and not make as many mistakes. I liked Aiden O'Connell last season, the way he finished up. But I also like Gardner Minshew, the way he played with the Colts. Wherever he goes, he's a spark. And sometimes you get a backup quarterback come in that is a spark. It doesn't last long. It might last a game. Especially if he gets prolonged usage. Whether it's an injury or the other guy gets benched. If that guy gets a couple of weeks starts, the rest of that game that he gets put into, or if he starts that first game, there's a spark, plays well, the team reacts well. The second game, a little bit less, but by the third game, it's kind of old news again. That team reverts back to what they were doing and, playing like garbage. So it's hard to tell, but he had a whole season last year where I thought he played very, very well for the Colts. Last year, he played in 17 games, 15 touchdowns, 3,300 yards, a 62.2% completion percentage. Interception-wise, 9 interceptions. So 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions are not numbers that are going to blow you away. But he did make a ton of plays with his legs. He made some really good throws, and he had that Colts team in the playoff race. So it's like you can't. It's hard to take that away from Gardner Minshew. He did a good job. Rushing wise, let me take a look here, see what he had rushing wise. I can find it. I know it's here somewhere. Well, anyway, he does move the ball. He's not a what you'd call a running quarterback, but he is a scrambling quarterback. He's one of those guys that do make some plays with his legs just by rolling out of the pocket and still throwing. So he's not one of those guys that are gonna run. He can pick up the first down when needed. He can make a big play with his legs. He doesn't do it often. He's just one of those guys that he does feel the pressure. He's able to escape that pressure, and he's able to break out of the pocket and try to make a play downfield. So he is one of those guys, and that's one of the things I do like. And that's one of the things I think Aiden O'Connell needs to really work on if he wants to have a chance in this competition. And we'll see if he has or hasn't. I have heard some reports that his footwork is much better. He is not like he was last season, kind of stuck in mud or cinder block feet or whatever. That he is moving a little bit better, but still probably not the level to the level what Gardner Minshew is able to do or whatever. Sip of iced tea for the working man. Whoop whoop. All right. A couple more comments here. Paul agreed. Ken Out of the Box Sports is built from the ground up by passionate hosts and real earned viewers. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I'm not going to get down on anybody that does pay for viewers. It is what it is. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. You want to make money off of it, and that's how you do it. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not gonna bash you for it. But that's that's not how I roll. That's not how we roll as a podcasting company unit, whatever you want to call us. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, there was a comment earlier about buying viewers and basically spam. And I didn't pre-read it, which I should have pre-read it. That's on me. I got excited because there was a new commenter. I'm like, oh, who's this? I click on it from Twitch and but at least it's not some lady trying to solicit me for some sort of fornication. So that's good. We don't need that around here. That's how you get in trouble. How do you feel Raiders? How do you feel Raiders wins is set at 9 over under? I feel that defense can win games or at least keep it close. Chargers and Denver are starting over 2. I do believe when I did the when the schedule came out for the season, I did the wins losses thing. I had the Raiders at 10-7. I'm sticking with that, no matter who's at quarterback. I think we have enough playmakers in Devontae Adams, Trey Tucker, drawing a blank now, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. I think we have enough playmakers on the outside to make a difference, no matter who quarterback is. And I think Zamir White's going to have a good year. I feel like a lot of people are kind of on the outside. Not Raider fans. I think Raider fans know what we have in Zamir White. But I think people on the outside don't understand what Zamir White can be. And we've seen flashes of it last season when Josh Jacobs was hurt the last few games of the season. Hurt the last few weeks of the season last year. And Zamir White ran hard, and he ran well. 100-yard game after 100-yard game. And I expect more of the same. If he's able to catch the ball out of the backfield, watch out, man. We got a hell of a running back there. And even the running back group with Mattinson we got from the Minnesota Vikings, bringing back Amir Abdullah, who's a hell of a threat out of the backfield to catch the ball all the time. So, and even draft. I've been hearing a lot of great things about Dylan Labe and his speed. So we'll see what happens there. Mostly him for returning and stuff, but you never know. From what I've been hearing, that out of the backfield he has looked pretty good. He has a lot to learn mentally, but physically he's looked really, really good. So that's a bonus right there. But the Raiders set at 9 over under. I mean, I go with the over. Like I said, I picked 10-7. 10-7. I haven't heard their win totals being that high. From what I heard on the other shows that I listened to, their win total was much lower, like 6 or 7. So I don't know if it's gone up since then, or you're looking on a different platform than with the guys that I've heard say. I haven't looked it up because I don't know. I'm not really 100% sure where you find that at. I probably could just Google search, Raiders odds on games won, this upcoming season. I could probably just Google that and see what comes up. But I never really do it. That's just what I heard through other podcasts. So I believe it was definitely under 8, and I feel like it was closer to like 6, 7, somewhere around there. One game played with Eagles, he had 350 passing yards versus Dallas defense. That's Gardner Minshew. And I think I remember that game. I do believe after that game there was a video of him and his father, him and his dad embracing and stuff like that, because that's kind of like almost his coming out party, Gardner Minshew, like, kind of like, hey, I can do this. Look, I can do this. I'm not just a backup quarterback, because he was just let go by Jacksonville. They had no faith in him. And to be 100% honest with you, he didn't really give the Jacksonville Jaguars a whole lot of reason to have faith in him. Like, again, the backup quarterback spark thing, that only carries you so far. And, he never really took the bull by the horns in Jacksonville to really keep that job away from whoever they were going to bring in, which eventually ends up being Trevor Lawrence. So, but yeah, I think that's that game where he ends up embracing his father at the end or whatever. But he has that in him. He does have that big game play in him, and I think it was week 2 or 3 that Colts quarterback, I think it was Anthony Richardson, is their quarterback, was hurt, and that's when Minshew was inserted as the full-time starter. So, that those 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, that's not really a full season of work. I mean, if he gets the full 17 games in, maybe it's 20 touchdowns and 10, 11 interceptions. Who knows? It's just the numbers would be a little bit better. Maybe closer to 3,800, 3,900 yards. But yeah, I think I do believe in Gardner Minshew. I do think he can be a starting quarterback. But just like Aiden O'Connell and any quarterback on the Raiders roster right now, they're not going to be a top tier quarterback. I'm not going to use the word elite. There's not too many quarterbacks in the league that you can call elite. You know, Patrick Mahomes obviously won. Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Right now I don't know what the hell we're going to see out of Aaron Rodgers with the torn Achilles. But he was an elite quarterback. Besides that, I off the top of my head, I don't know who else you would consider elite right now that is currently in the league. I mean, top tier quarterbacks, there are quite a few. You look at your Jalen Hurts and stuff like that, and I don't know if Brock Purdy is a top tier quarterback. He does show it for the most part, but then he does have some games where he looks like a 7th round draft pick. So, if Paul being a Cowboys fan, you can check Paul out on Dem 215 Boys, especially with this guy right here, Cowboy Dave, checking in. Saying, what's going on, big man? Those guys, they do a great job on Dem 215 Boys talking Dallas Cowboy football. Dak Prescott, I wouldn't call Dak Prescott elite, but I would, me being on the outside, not a Cowboys fan, just from the outside looking in, I would have no problem saying that Dak Prescott is a top tier type quarterback. So, the Raiders don't have a guy like that. They have mid-tier, guys right now at quarterback. I don't think that those guys have what it takes to be a top-tier quarterback, which with the defense that the Raiders do have, I don't think you need a top-tier quarterback. And it's the one thing that Lincoln Kennedy talked about actually on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Well, I guess it was a clip from, I think it was Las Vegas, ESPN Las Vegas or whatever it was with Q, who does the Locked On Raiders podcast. It was his Raiders show. I'm not sure if it was with ESPN or if it's his own Raiders show. But Lincoln Kennedy was on and he was talking about the quarterback competition, and he said it himself. He doesn't know who the leader is coming into into the clubhouse right now. Who's ahead? Who's the odds-on favorite? But he says he does know that the Raiders have a defense good enough to overcome whatever they do put out there. They just need a quarterback to be somewhat coherent, somewhat competent out there, and to make some plays. They don't have to be world beaters. And he said he's seen the very same thing. Now he's not comparing this Raiders defense to the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense, but he said, as much as what he has to compare it to, because he playing against the 2000 Ravens. Ray Lewis, guys like that. Tony Siragusa flopping his fat ass on the Rich Gannon during the playoffs. Rest in peace, Tony Siragusa. But he said he's seen it firsthand. They didn't have a quarterback. I'm pretty sure that was Trent Dilfer that year. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. That's the year that the Ravens won the Super Bowl against the Giants in 2000. But he said he's seen it firsthand in the playoffs. He said that we got our asses kicked up and down the field by that defense. He said, but that offense was nothing. He said, there was that defense that won that game and carried them to the Super Bowl. And that's, the Raiders defense is that good where it can do something like that. Can it carry them to the Super Bowl? I'm not sure about that. Can it carry them to a playoff? To a playoff berth. I do think that the Raiders defense is good enough that it can carry this team to the playoffs. I think there's enough playmakers on offense where it can make enough plays, regardless who is at quarterback, to make enough offense to carry the Raiders to a playoff berth. And once you get to the playoffs, if you have watched any of my shows before, when I talk about playoffs, you know that I say you make it to the tournament, everybody's 0-0. Everybody's on the even playing field. Anything can happen, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, football, anything. You make it to the postseason, to the tournament, to the brackets. Everybody's 0-0. Anything can happen. So that's what you got to look forward to. rolling through these, a couple more of these. Paul says Myers and Bowers and Adams are going to be nasty together. Plus a committee at running back. Yeah, and that's the one thing I think they will do. I do think it'll be running back by committee. I do think Zamir White will get the bulk of the carries, but I do think that Alexander Mattison is going to receive a chunk of carries as well. And then you're going to see a lot of Amir Abdul on third longs, third and mediums. I would expect if you're seeing 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, that you're going to see the big guy in there. You're going to see Zamir White. If I remember, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly or not, but I do think that's the one area that the Raiders struggled last season, even with Josh Jacobs in there, was the short yardage situations where it's like 3rd and 1 and you try to run up the middle, get that 1 yard, and it just wasn't happening. So Zamir White, I think, is a bigger back than what Josh Jacobs was. Not only weight-wise or size-wise, but girth-wise, the dude is just it looks like an absolute chunk of granite. The dude is just chiseled. He's just large. He's a large fella. And so we'll see what happens there. Hopefully our offensive line can get that push and we can pick up those 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 1s without having to go to 4th down and make decisions that we don't want to be making. Hey, the mayor of Las Vegas. Vegas Rob checking in. He said, what's up, Bat Fry? Zamir White's going to have a good year. Looking forward to watching him play. We're going to look to get Rob on the show here. Rob used to be the host of the Vegas sports scene. Got me into the podcasting game here. And so I'm looking to have Rob on a couple times this season, before the season starts, probably halfway through and then near the end. They're kind of talk Raiders, see where we're at, and we'll go from there. So looking forward to having Rob back on the show. We'll talk a little bit about Raider football and all sorts of shenanigans that he's been in out there in Las Vegas, out there in Sin City. What's he doing out there in Sin? What's Rob doing in Sin City? Is he causing trouble? We'll have to wait to find out. Paul says this was on Caesar's book. All right, Ken, got to head into the neurosurgeon. Great show as always. Good luck, Paul, with your neurology appointment, or I don't know if that's the right word or not. But all right, so Caesar's book has it set at 9 wins for the Raiders. So maybe that moved a little bit because I know I was hearing it was less than that. So maybe they moved up a little bit. Rob says, I don't see either quarterback winning a Super Bowl for the silver and black. It's tough to see. But again, I'm sure that's how the Ravens fans felt with Trent Dilfer there as well, or whatever. I mean, they only won one with Trent Dilfer, but they won that in spite of Trent Dilfer. He wasn't doing them any favors, really. He wasn't winning many games for them, but he wasn't losing games for them either. And I think that's the big thing there, Rob, is not losing games for the Raiders. Right? We don't. If we're going to throw Aiden O'Connell out there, I'm not going to be overly upset if if he starts the whole season and his final stat line is 3,600 yards with 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's not going to break my heart. That interception total being low, that's good. That means he's not making the mistake that hurt our team. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But if you're going into the season and your quarterback is throwing 4,000 yards, he has 20 touchdowns, but he has 17 interceptions. That's not going to help anybody out at all. Those 20 touchdowns are being negated by all those interceptions. So it's just need to take care of the football, not make the mistakes to hurt us. Q works for Fox Sports Radio. I know he does talk a good bit about ESPN, so I don't know if he does stuff for ESPN or what. So I'm not really sure. I thought I could have swore he said he works for ESPN. I could be wrong. Looking forward to having you back to talk a little bit of Raider football. Like I said, Rob, we'll get together the next couple of weeks before week 1, and we'll talk season outlook there. Stacy, what's up, Stacy? Thanks for checking the show out. How's Big Blue gonna do? How are them Giants gonna do? It's gonna be interesting to see what how Danny Dimes bounces back from that injury, and I felt bad for him. I like Daniel Jones. I really do. I think I don't know if I don't want to say I think he's a great quarterback. I don't even know if I think he's a good quarterback. I just like him. I don't know what it is about him. Uh, I just, I just like him. I think there's potential where he can be a decent quarterback to good quarterback. And, him being in the New York media is not doing him any favors. They ripped the poor guy apart. Hey, that's how I am every year, Stacy. Every year with the Raiders, just hoping for over 500 or something close to it. Anyway, last year finishing 8-9, it's like, all right, we'll take that. Okay, because it gets tough. It really does get tough. Year in and year out, losing. At least the Giants have a Super Bowl, a couple Super Bowl wins that are in recent memory. At least you could buy the DVD of their Super Bowls. The Raiders, you have to go to a library, go up into their attic or down to their basement, find the old reel-to-reel machine. Then go into the archives of NFL films, find the ribbon of film, take it out of the can, wind it up, and then run it through this gimmick, and hopefully it doesn't catch fire like the cartoons told me that, that has always shown me that it does. It catches fire for some reason. And we don't want that. So yeah, I guess that maybe that's what partly what it is. He is humble. He isn't cocky, or a cocky prick. Nobody likes a cocky prick. So maybe that's it. I think he can make plays with his legs. I think he can make plays with his arms. Just sometimes he makes a really dumb mistake, and I think that's what hurts him. Is those big mistakes in the worst absolute times. And when they need him the most, I think Daniel Jones, sometimes just doesn't show up big. There's times he does show up big, but there are times where he doesn't show up big. And I think the other thing that hurts him is how well the Eagles have been playing the last couple seasons, how well the Cowboys have been playing, and sometimes haven't been playing. But for the most part, how well the Cowboys have been playing. I think if those teams have been mediocre or on the same level as the Giants, I think he'd probably get a little bit more credit for being a better quarterback than what the fan base or some media portrays him as. But I mean, it's hard to sit there. Trust. I know this 100% because of the Chiefs, the Queefs. It's hard to sit back and just watch a team in your division just rake it all in. It seems like they when they lose, they still win. That's just how it feels, especially with the Chiefs. Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and they have Patrick Mahomes. It's like, geez, how does a team like that step in shit like that? Andy Reid and stuff. It's like it doesn't make sense. And year in and year out, they step into shit and they come out smelling like roses. It's unbelievable. And that's looking at the Giants. That's how they could view the Eagles almost, and to another extent, maybe the Cowboys. Beta, yeah, for real. the old is that the reel to reel beta stuff, and there ain't no 4K, right? It's not in ultra high def. That's all I know. So another competition that's it's not even really a competition, but performance wise through training camp that I've heard a couple. I've heard consistent reports on. That's what I should say. Is the play of Trey Tucker. A lot of reports, Trey Tucker coming into this training camp. By reports, for out of his own mouth, working hard in the offseason, which may very well have. Working on route running and stuff like that, agility and the mental aspect of the game, and physical, getting stronger and bigger and stuff. Well, so far in training camp, from everything I've heard, from a couple different outlets, is that he's not been performing well thus far in training camp. Now he is our number 3 receiver, especially with the retirement of Michael Gallup. Which, even if Michael Gallup would have stayed, I still think that Trey Tucker is your number 3, and I think your Gallup is your 4. Where being the 4 isn't, you're not going to get a whole lot of playing time being the 4 because of Brock Bowers, basically. He's listed as a tight end, but he's going to play a lot of wide. He's going to play out wide, I think, a lot as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect to see a number 4 or even your number 3 out there as much as you think. But from every report that I've heard, Tucker, a lot of drop passes, uh, route running not all that great, and it just hasn't been going well for him. So hopefully it's just an aberration. Hopefully it's just a bad week, 2 weeks of practice, and that's it. And hopefully it's not something that he's going to carry over into the season and shit the bed. Yeah, and the thing is, there's not a whole lot of competition pushing for that number 3 receiver spot. So I just wonder if they had somebody in there to push him a little bit harder, competition wise, maybe he'd be performing a little bit better. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. A lot of it comes down to confidence. It's hard as an offense. It's hard to gain confidence at practice when you're facing a top 10 defense. Every snap. You're getting your pecker smacked by defense that did a whole lot of pecker smacking last year. So it's hard to gain confidence, and that's something that could be happening to Trey Tucker right now. I'm not really 100% positive if that's what the issue is or not, but confidence is a huge thing, especially for athletes. So this is the competition that he's currently going against. You have Christian Wilkerson, Jalen Guyton, who's on the PUP list right now, DJ Turner, Keelan Doss, who we just re-signed, Tyreek McAllister, Alex Bachman, and then a couple receivers that were undrafted free agents. Jeff Foreman, Raymond Keaton, and Tulu Griffin. So not a whole lot of competition there for that 3 spot. And sometimes competition brings the best out in people. So maybe that's the issue there. Maybe we need to bring somebody else in, kind of push this kid a little bit. I would think that Brock Bowers would be that guy, bring the rookie in, being a tight end, but still pushing the receiver. And it doesn't seem like that's the issue. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to light that fire under Trey Tucker's ass. But like I said, it could be nothing. It could be you get into the season, and all of a sudden he's that playmaker that we're all hoping for, stretching the field and making big plays. But we'll have to wait and see. The offense is going to be a huge issue. All season, it's going to be a big talking point all season. And if the Raiders are winning games, it's going to be softer criticism, I think, if that makes any sense. But if they're not winning games or losing close, low-scoring games like last season, the criticism is going to be much, much harsher, especially with the Raiders not being able to get a quarterback in this year's draft. And from all reports are that they tried to move up. They didn't want to give up what some teams wanted, and they didn't have enough either. They didn't have enough draft capital or draft capital that was enticing enough to move up far enough into the draft to get a quarterback. So a quarterback that they like. You just don't want to go grab and ask quarterbacks, just because they go, oh, hey, we need a quarterback. Let's go get this guy because he's the only one left. That's moronic. So that's stuff that the Raiders used to do, moronic stuff in the first round, whether it was quarterback, wide receiver, or defensive back or whatever. Hopefully those times are past us. But the offense is going to be a huge issue. It's looking at the offensive line, guys not practicing right now because they're on the PUP list. Colton Miller is one, but again, I think he's coming to his 7th or 8th season here. He's an All-Pro, Pro Bowler, one of the top left tackles in the league. So I'm not too worried about him. But Jackson Powers Johnson being on the PUP list, that's your rookie that you're hoping you can plug in there right away, that can play right away at guard, and he hasn't been practicing yet. Still recovering from an injury from last season, college and stuff. So now you have plug and place kind of guys there on the offensive line that probably won't be there because Jackson Powers Johnson is expected to be there. Not only because he was a higher draft pick, I believe we took him in the second round, I believe. Not only because of that, but because he is, by everything you hear, he is that damn good. So you expect him to be in that starting lineup, but now is the time where, as an offensive line, you need to be uh, you know creating like flow and stuff like that. I can't think of the word. That's the other drawback of working night shift and doing shows in the morning is words escape you that usually you kind of like they're right at the tip of your tongue and just brain no work good, brain slow. Uh, Becoming a cohesive unit. That's where they should be doing that right now, but they can't because they have half the offensive line out basically. And you have the competition at right tackle between Thayer Mumford, uh, the rookie DJ Glaze as well. Andrews Pete is filling in for Colton Miller at left tackle, and which is it's great that the Raiders picked up Andrews Pete actually for that reason. Is that he's a veteran and he's played multiple positions across the offensive line, guard and tackle. So that's a great pickup by the Raiders. He can fill in there, but again, you're not building that camaraderie, that cohesiveness, and that's what you need right now. That's what they should be doing, and I think that's going to hurt them in the first couple weeks of the season until they get that offensive line figured out. And if the offensive line needs to be getting figured out, that means your quarterback is going to be under pressure. If your quarterback's under pressure, your quarterback is going to make mistakes. And if your quarterback is making mistakes, the offense is not scoring points. And if the damn offense isn't scoring points, that means the defense needs to do all the work. And that's not where we want to be. So, all right. So I think I've gone on enough, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's all I have for today offensively. Anyway, next week I'm going to talk a little bit more about the defense, and if there is any more offensive news, quarterback type stuff. I'll also talk about the preseason game, week 1 versus the Minnesota Vikings coming up here this Friday. I'll also talk about that and what I saw and my thoughts on it, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a sponsor read here real quick. Shut that off. There we go. We got our boy, Jason Fine, J. Fine Law, attorney Big Al. You can reach Big Al at 1-800-HURT-123. That's 1-800-HURT-123. Jason Fine specializes in motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, workman's comp, and personal injury claims. He has 3 office locations conveniently located throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Office in New Jersey is located in Cherry Hill on 3 Greensward Lane, and the phone number there is 856-209-5258. And in Pennsylvania, he has offices located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on 500 Grant Street, Suite 2900. The phone number 412-365-8151, and in Philadelphia, and that office is located on 1628 JFK Boulevard, Suite 2120. The phone number there is 267-888-2980. That's Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. So be sure to reach out to Jason Fine there, Big Al. He does a hell of a job. If you're not sure if you have a case that is worthy of our boy Jason Fine, reach out to Paul Spencer. He's the head here at Out of the Box Sports, and he works for Jason Fine as well, and he can give you more information on that. So don't be afraid to message Paul through social media. Paul Spencer. Shoot him hop into that boy's DMs and let him know your situation. Or I do believe he has his phone number out there somewhere. So, all right. So again, that's all I have for today. Please tune in tomorrow. I will be live again. This time I will be shooting for 10 a.m. I wanted to be 10 a.m. today. The kids slept in a little bit before I took them to my wonderful, wonderful in-laws, mother-in-law and father-in-law, Dave and Barb. Terrific people. Love Dave and Barb. They're like my mom and dad-in-law. So that's how I look at my in-laws as just another mother and father. To be 100% honest with you, great people. I love them to death. So, but anyway, What was that? Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Silver and Black Lair. I'm going to talk the LA Kings tomorrow. It's been a while since I talked Kings, so I got a ton to cover with the Kings. Move roster wise, movement wise, and stuff like that, good or bad. And so I got a ton to cover tomorrow. So I will be live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time for that. And then Wednesday morning, I will be live 10 a.m. with the Bat Cave talking New York Mets baseball. The Mets really got under my skin yesterday, losing 2 out of 3 to the Angels. Got to win these games against the lower level teams if you want to stay in the playoff race. But we'll talk about that Wednesday. And this Friday night, we'll be doing the Atomic Drop podcast once again. Time to be determined. It's either going to be 10:30 or 11. I'm going to see what the guys want to do. But this Saturday, we will not be live because I have tickets to a Green Day concert. And it's been a long time since I've seen Green Day. That was the first rock band I ever really attached myself to. I love my rock music. I'm a big Korn fan, Korn, Metallica, but it all started with Green Day. So I'm excited to go see Green Day again, and might even get myself a mohawk and paint it green. Who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll play that one by ear. So check that out Friday. The Atomic Drop podcast talking WWE wrestling. And be sure to check out all of our shows here at Out of the Box Sports. I have a lot of great shows. Solely Squad talking Philly sports. Them 215 boys talking Dallas Cowboy football. The Commanders Gridiron talking Washington Commanders football. The Big Blue Power Hour talking New York Giants football. We have MLB's Extra Innings, which I do believe will be off the next 2 weeks, or at least this week. We'll be back next week, something like that. But just always check the schedule out. Like, follow, subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, X. That way you get notifications as to when the shows will be on, as to when they're scheduled. What else do we have on this network? We have coming up soon, we'll have the Golden Dome podcast, Notre Dame football on Saturdays. College Football Frenzy, talking all college football coming up here in the next week or two. We have NFL Pick'em, which is on Thursday nights with Paul and Dan. A whole bunch of stuff here. So, and some stuff in the works as well. So be sure to check all of our shows out. And like I said, subscribe on YouTube and X. Follow us. Subscribe to the channels. Also, we're also on Facebook and Twitch. It's very much appreciated. And tell all your friends. We're not going to buy viewers, so we need you to tell your friends. All right, so that's all I have. Thank you, everybody, for checking the show out. Thank you to those who commented. And if you didn't comment, next time I'm live, throw your comments out there. I'll read your comments. There is no stupid questions. Just a stupid host. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much. Just win, baby.